bring this video to you today. I spoke a little bit about it on my Instagram stories and also wrote a blog about it that you can find on my website. The link will be below, as well as on my email list. You can sign up for that as well on my website. But I wanted to show you some ways that you can safely start to add a little load and a little strength to your yoga practice. Now you can read all about this in the blog that I have written, but I do strongly feel like there are ways to bring yoga philosophy and essentially the yogic way of living into strength training. And I also passionately believe that in order for these physical containers, these containers for this experience, right, need to be strengthened in order to function optimally. So there are lots of ways that we can add strength to our yoga practice, but I'm going to specifically look at safe ways to add in some extra props and things like that. Don't ever get me wrong, I'm a strong believer that we have a lot of strength in our physical bodies, and our physical bodies can do a lot of things, but sometimes just to add a little bit more of that force and that load into our movement, we need some exterior resistance or some exterior weight. So today I'm very specifically going to be using ankle weights. So yes, just like your grandmother had in her closet, these are just ankle weights. They can also be used on your wrist. Now I have a different set of these, but I shared in my Instagram stories today in real time that I found these at Five Below. So Five Below, the little cheap dollar store, I found these when I was looking for some things for a yoga class. And they were $5 for a set of 2. These are 4 pounds. They also had 2 pounds, and you can get other different weight variations. I do have another set that I use regularly. That set is 5 pounds, and it was about $30, so still not that expensive. But seeing these for $5, I really wanted to give them a try and see if I could not share them with others, and they might get the benefit for literally only $5 because this video is free. So I have not used them at all yet. These are fresh out of the box, and we're just going to do a couple of things so I can just show you ways that you could add these into your yoga practice. Now we're not going to take our yoga practice from being a spiritual ritualistic thing into beating ourselves up at the gym, but there are mindful and intentional ways that we can get just a little bit stronger physically, mentally, and emotionally from our yoga practice. And if you're a dude watching this, they did have blue ones as well, but I did go for the pink in my ankle weights. Alright, so they'll throw these weights on. We're going to see how they're going to work, and we're going to start in tabletop position. Now this won't be a full-length practice. I'm just going to give you some tips and tricks today. You can subscribe to this channel and wait for more, and we'll have some more full practices with not just ankle weights, but a few other different tools. So let's just start in tabletop position. If you're going to play along with me and you haven't done any movement today, just take a moment to maybe stretch and open here. So in order to actually use our strength and add these things like this, we need to be really mindful of how we're setting up our body and how we're supporting ourselves. So just take a couple of more rounds. And if you've already done this, you can just fast forward. And then we're going to come back to a neutral spine. So just a really brief lesson here talking about what neutral is. So I want to make sure my low ribs are lining up with my pelvic bones. So I know that if I'm soft in my core, then it's going to dip down. But if I really direct that belly button towards the spine, then I can engage my abdominal muscles and I can support myself better. I'm going to make sure I'm not rocking back into my wrist, but grip the mat with the fingertips. Now, if you do have any wrist discomfort, a couple of options here. You can either come down onto the forearms. You can bring forearms to a block or a bolster, just whatever is going to make this a little bit more accessible for you. So I'm going to start by reaching the right leg behind me. Make sure that knee is not poking out to the side. I'm going to engage my upper thigh, pull my thigh bone in towards my abdomen, and just gently start to lift the heel up towards the sky. Now make sure that those toes stay flexed. All 5 toes are pointing down to the mat. And for right here, I'm just going to hold. So if you're playing along with me, you might have already started to feel what's happening in that leg. Make sure that glute's working so that those core muscles are working. And then if you want to add a little bit more, you can just add little pulses here. If you want to add a little bit more, we can go back to that holding position and maybe reach the opposite arm forward. Keep that shoulder plugged in. Don't overextend here. We're working on adding strength here, not pulling away. And then if you wanted to go ahead and just add that bird dog, pulling in and reaching out. In and out. 3 more. All right, if you're playing along with me, go ahead and pause and do the other side just to make sure that we're equal. But if you're just looking at this for some tips and tricks, then we'll just keep on going. From here, I'm going to come into gate pose. So that modified side plank. I'm going to reach my arm up towards the sky, and we can do the same thing here. It's going to be a little bit more inner and outer thigh, but I'm going to move with my breath here, check in with my body. All right, when enough is enough, and we're done here. But the same thing. You can just lift and lower here. You can lift up and hold. And then if you wanted to, we could come here nice and slow. Make sure you're using those inhales and those exhales. Find space. Find strength. And then we can bring it all the way back into center. Awesome job. Where are we going to go from here? We're going to take it all the way back into a downward facing dog. Where we can find that we can do some similar things, right? So we can lift that right leg up to the sky, and I'm just going to stay on the right side so that you can see what I'm doing. But if you're doing this along with me, just make sure you pause to go to the second side. Lifting that right leg up, making sure that I'm pressing down through that left heel, stretch the rib cage back, belly button in, bring the right toes down. Take it back up. Bring it down. Take it back up. And bring it down. Take it back up. This time I'm going to swing it in between the thumbs and come into a lunge. Now, when we're swinging a leg forward and there's a load down on the ankle, we really want to make sure that core is doing the work here, right? We're not trying to add strength by pulling on our joints. We're really utilizing our muscles, and all that power comes from your core. It doesn't really matter what we're doing. We've got all these stabilizing muscles, and we know that that's where our solar plexus, our energetic power, is as well. So just really check in with that. We want to be really mindful and intentional. It's not worth adding any of this to your practice if it's going to cause harm. Remembering ahimsa here. So forward here. I can come up to a lunge, and again, these are just ideas. This is not a specific sequence, but you can see how you might work these into a sequence. From a lunge, this is my favorite, reaching the arms up, I'm gonna pull the belly button in, I'm gonna step it into chair, sink low, and tap it back. Chair, back, chair, back, chair, back. And you can play with holding, pulsing, whatever you have there. Just make sure you're moving with the breath, moving with intention. I'm going to say it over and over and over again. From here, I can take my hands down to the earth, and even though I've been using this right side, left leg lifts up, standing split. Now I'm really going to check in with the core, so I'm not pulling in on that left knee, and I can start to curl in towards my butt and lengthen it out. Curl and out. Curl and out. Nice job. Curl and out, bringing it all the way forward. You can fold here for a moment, and we'll roll it up. All right, so we can use these through an entire sequence and just make our feet just a little bit heavier, and you'll start to notice a difference. But there are certain poses that we can add in to utilize them a little bit more. For example, in Tadasana, reaching the arms up, really rooting in, pulling the belly button in, rising up out of the earth, I can come into single leg Tadasana, flex that foot, and tap it down. Up, and down. Up, and down. And then if I wanted to make this into a sequence, because it's just how my mind works, I could take it up here, float it all the way back, and come into a lunge. step it into chair, step it back, so on and so forth. You can see how that would work. Now, a couple more things that we can do that are really beneficial to the body and our overall strength is just adding in little glute exercises. So our glutes tend to be one of the things that we struggle with engaging the most for whatever reason that is. I get a lot of clients and a lot of students that are worried about glute strength. So, you know, just a couple of other things that are definitely appropriate to add to your yoga practice. So don't think that this has to go into a certain category or a certain box. Again, anytime that we're uniting the body and the mind and the breath, that's union, that's yoga. We just lose the yoga when we're getting it in to burn calories or to get the sweat or to get the certain number of reps. But if we're listening and mindful, then it's still a part of your practice. So coming into a tabletop position, we have the all-time favorite. I have the donkey kicks. Now, I always challenge people to not bring that knee all the way down, but just to lift the heel up and then level out the hips. Lift and level, lift and level. From here, I can take it into fire hydrants. Take it out, pull it in, make sure you're not dropping over onto the opposite hip, but using that muscle control. From here, taking it into plank on the hands or down on the forearms. We can come here, add in, lift, pull that belly in. This is super hard. Or we can take it out. Again, just making sure, lifting up or taking it out, that I'm not pulling on the knee or relying on the knee to do the movement. Once you get a little bit more, Squid's gonna come say hello. Once you get a little bit more comfortable and a little bit ultimately stronger, there are balancing poses that we can do. So coming into half moon, using the weight, warrior three, I showed you a standing split. I'll show you half moon here in a moment. There's one more thing that I just remembered I wanted to show you down here, but that's the hamstring curls. So we did those in standing split, right? Well, a simpler version of that would be to come here and curl and lengthen. Curl and lengthen. So just nice and slow, utilizing the breath, going slow, just checking in. If it starts to feel like it's too much, then it's too much. Just let it go. So half moon, we're gonna make sure that we're really steady, really stable, maybe even using a wall when you first try to explore this. But coming down with the weight adds a whole lot up here in that hip, reaching it up. And you can do the same thing, just like we did on that modified side plank. You can do the lifts, you can curl it back, all kinds of things, just to add a little more fire to your practice, intentionally and mindfully with the breath. So I'm hoping that in seeing this, it's going to inspire you to maybe go out and get some ankle weights, to try some things, play with it yourself. I just encourage you to do it slowly and pay attention to your body, right? So a lot of times when we're getting hurt or we're injuring ourselves when we're adding things, it's when we're moving mindlessly and a little bit too quickly. So engaging the core, knowing what your alignment is and knowing what your limit is, right? So we can push just a little bit past our edge, but not far enough that we're gonna fall off the cliff. So know where your box is, don't step too far out of it, and just stay safe. I hope this was helpful, and I can't wait to show you more.